Picture an ordinary house in Osaka. A narrow lot, no irrigation system, no chemical treatment schedule pinned to the garage wall. The lawn out front is thick and deeply green, not the bright, almost radioactive green of a lawn that has just been fertilized. The darker, quieter green of something growing correctly for a long time. Now picture the house 2 streets over, American, somewhere in Ohio, where the homeowner has spent $400 this year alone trying to get that same color. Brown circles keep coming back. The weeds keep winning. The difference is not the grass seed or the climate or any advantage Japanese soil happened to be born with. One homeowner has been feeding the grass, the other has been feeding the soil. Everything else follows from that. Here is the problem. American lawn care cannot escape. It treats what it can see and ignores what it cannot. You notice a brown patch and you buy something to spray on it. Each product addresses the surface and leaves the underlying system as broken as before. Feed the surface repeatedly and it comes to depend on being fed. The system weakens while the lawn looks fine, until it doesn't. Start with the brown circle, circular matted, dead-looking at the center, returning every summer. Most people assume drought or insects. The real cause is almost always brown patch disease, a fungal infection triggered by wet grass sitting through warm, humid nights. Stop watering at night and water only around sunrise when the blades dry within an hour. Then take ordinary cornmeal, about $20 for a large bag, and spread it over the infected area. Cornmeal encourages trichoderma, a beneficial fungus that naturally predates brown patch, already present in most soils but outnumbered. You are not fighting the fungus. You are changing the ratio so that nature fights it for you. The weeds come next. Weeds do not attack healthy lawns. They occupy empty space where healthy grass has already failed. Every dandelion is an announcement. Something died here and nothing grew back. Overseed heavily in early fall, pushing dense new growth into every thin spot. A truly thick lawn blocks sunlight from the soil surface, and weed seeds, which need that light to germinate, never get started. 5 minutes of pulling after rainfall replaces repeated herbicide applications that never address why the space was empty. Bare spots along the fence, down the path where the kids run, most people reseed them and watch the new grass fail. It fails because the problem is not a shortage of seed, it is compacted soil. Take a garden fork, drive it into the compacted area, and rock it gently without lifting the soil. Just crack it open. Spread a thin layer of compost and reseed in fall. The process costs an afternoon. The grub problem carries a particular irony. The most damaging species in American lawns is the Japanese beetle. Yet Japanese homeowners almost never suffer infestations severe enough to need treatment. Healthy soil holds beneficial nematodes, predatory beetles, and parasitic wasps that naturally hold grub populations in check. Synthetic programs eliminate those populations, which is why each treatment makes the next necessary. Beneficial nematodes, about $25 online, applied in late summer, hunt larvae in the soil without harming earthworms, birds, or pets. Give the system a season and the cycle breaks. Poor drainage looks like a contractor problem. The alternative is to drill vertical holes into the waterlogged area and fill them with gravel. Simple columns, giving water a direct path through the compacted clay layer where it has been pooling. Dog urine burns grass the same way fertilizer burned us. Dilute it immediately and reseed damaged spots with perennial ryegrass, which handles the salt load far better than Kentucky bluegrass. Persistent yellowgrass, despite adequate fertilizer, is almost always iron deficiency. Chelated iron restores the green within days. These are not workarounds. They are the actual solutions, applied to the actual causes. There is a word in Japanese for what all of this is building, tsuchi-zukuri. Soil making, not lawn care. An American homeowner is responsible for the appearance of the surface. A Japanese gardener is responsible for the health of the living system beneath it, with the surface understood as a consequence. Yoshikazu Kawaguchi, considered the leading voice of natural farming in Japan, spent nearly 40 years demonstrating what follows from that distinction. The soil is not background, it is the main event. The commercial lawn system works on its own terms, grass that looks green by the following weekend. The structural problem is what it requires to keep working. Synthetic fertilizers deliver soluble nitrogen to the surface, so roots have no reason to go deep, and synthetic salts accumulate season by season, suppressing the microbial communities that build soil structure. Take the lawn off the program, and the first year looks worse. Weeds in the thin spots the fertilizer was papering over. Year 2, soil biology starts to rebuild. Year 3, most report a healthier lawn at a fraction of the cost. Think in years, not weekends. It is accuracy about how living systems work. The yearly routine is simple. Compost top dressing in spring, fork aeration in late spring, heavy overseeding in early fall. Between those 3 tasks, mow at 3.5 to 4 inches to shade out weed seeds, water deeply once a week in early morning, and leave clippings where they fall. Grass clippings return roughly the same nitrogen as a light fertilizer application. You are giving back what the grass took. The bokashi tradition extends the principle underground. Kitchen scraps layered in an airtight container with rice bran, inoculated with lactic acid bacteria and yeast ferment rather than rot. No odor, no flies. When buried in soil, proteins are already broken into amino acids that roots and organisms absorb directly, without weeks of decomposition. You're not making food for the grass. You're feeding the organisms that build the environment it lives in. There's a garden in western Kyoto called Saihoji, the moss temple, founded in 731 AD, flooded and burned across 12 centuries. During the Meiji period, the monastery lacked funds for upkeep and the garden went untended. The floods had deposited fertile sediment, and the neglect left whatever was already trying to grow undisturbed. By the end of the 19th century, more than 120 species of moss had covered every surface. A green so continuous, the temple was registered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. No one planted the moss. They stopped fighting what the system was trying to do, and the system produced something extraordinary. Build the right conditions, and living things do not need to be forced. The average American homeowner on a commercial program spends roughly $500 a year, and the lawn grows more dependent on that spend each season. The Japanese approach: nematodes once a year, compost in spring, seed in fall, cornmeal for fungal outbreaks, chelated iron when needed, costs about $125 annually and becomes more effective each year. Not cheaper and worse, cheaper and better. Every system that treats visible symptoms while ignoring the underlying cause requires increasing intervention to maintain the same surface appearance. Commercial lawn care built that dependency in. Tsuchi-zukuri built something different, a living system that, once correctly established, begins to maintain itself. The work front loads into the first 2 or 3 years and then falls away. Not because you stopped caring, because the system learned to. If this is the kind of question you want to keep asking, why the thing that actually works is so rarely the thing being sold, Survive Better is where we ask them. What are you doing to your soil?